Now we're going to remain in the ecosystem of transportation, and we'll be entering a new age. And I find that title quite interesting. It's the trust age. Because the gentleman who will be joining us in about 30 seconds' time is from a company called BlaBlaCar. Most of you will know what BlaBlaCar does, but to cut it short, it connects drivers with empty seats with people willing to go in the same direction. That's why we need trust. In that sense, we're happy he's here. I trust you will enjoy yourself. That was really cheesy. I'm semi-embarrassed. Anyway, from BlaBlaCar, Frederick Mazzella. Welcome on stage, Frederick. That's the part where you applaud, boys and girls, and you need to high-five me. No, we do high-five. Thank you very much, my friend. Stage is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So today, I would like to talk about one of the most beautiful things that human beings are able to express. I'd like to talk about trust. We're actually entering a new stage, and there is a historical social disruption that is underway. So why does trust matter? We've been conducting a study with NYU Stern and Professor Arun Sundararajan, sharing economy specialist, to learn more about trust and know why it's so important and how it gets built. So actually, without trust, you can't get collaboration, and without collaboration, you can't get any economy, basically. So we see that it really matters, and I want you to think about the people you trust. By trust, I mean the people who you trust enough to engage with. And as soon as you do that, you will realize that you will have a few individuals in mind. It can be friends, family members, neighbors, colleagues. And you'll see that it's people you've been knowing for a long time. So actually, it's a small set of people you trust and you build interpersonal trust with. But you can see that interpersonal trust is limited in reach, and it takes time to build. Let's take the example of Mary and Joe, for example. Mary and Joe could be neighbors, could be friends. They've been knowing each other for a long time. They've been building their trust by multiple interactions over time. So interaction after interaction, trust gets built, and then they become friends. They have a true relationship, but it's actually limited to their relationship. This trust is made between those two people, and that's it. So that's what happened at the beginning of society with families, with small communities. So it could be tribes, it could be villages. But trust was built in an interpersonal way, so everybody knows each other. And that's how you can collaborate together and go further. Then, in the history of humanity, we've been building trust proxies. So by trust proxies, I mean governments, institutions, or even brands. So it's a way for us to trust something, a body, that is actually representing some sort of regulations, some sort of image, positioning, something we trust in. And this has allowed us to scale collaboration to a much larger scale, because for example, for the brands, from the small bakery around the corner to international brands as we know them, we've been able to trust those brands and buy their products, their services, just because we know that the quality will be good. And so we're able to actually make a transaction, which helps everything grow and the collaboration go a bit further. So we see that interpersonal trust is kind of a one-to-one interaction, while proxy trust is one-to-many, but it scales a lot faster. So the question is whether or not we can scale that further. Well, actually, what's happening right now with all the digital era we're in is that we're able to scale trust larger. So if you take the example of the interaction that you could have on a platform, on a sharing economy platform, actually, you can interact with several people, and then interaction after interaction, you'll be building your trust. You build a trust capital, and then when someone else comes, someone new, he will be able to download this trust capital, and so he will be able to trust you instantaneously without knowing you, so you're out of reach for him in his daily life, but he doesn't know you, he will be able to trust you still. And he will have all the trust that gets built in the network that he has access to right now. So actually, we see that just because of this, we now have a way to disrupt the way trust is built, both in reach and time. Because now we can reach trust way, way further than just our friends, family members, or our neighbors or colleagues. We can go much further, and so we can trust people we've never met. We also trust them instantaneously, so we don't need years of interaction to trust them. So in a sense, you can grow your network from about this, to like a small circle of people, to a lot more people. Which means we go from a one-to-many, which was a proxy trust, to a many-to-many interaction. This is where it really gets very interesting in the scale of trust, because we see that we started with family, communities, and then brands, governments, institutions, and then we are now to a scale where we're able to build interpersonal trust at a scale which has never been reached before. In a sense, we could compare this disruption to the appearance of the telephone. When the telephone appeared, it was a disruption for communication, both in terms of reach and time, because you could reach people who are not in the same room, and you can discuss with them instantaneously. It's the same that is ongoing with trust. So we see how telecommunication has changed the way we behave altogether, and so we can see that the way trust gets disrupted today is also something that will change our behaviors. Trust unlocks our sharing potential. It unlocks lots of new collaborations. And so if we go back to what's happening, so maybe some of you are not familiar yet with BlaBlaCar, what it is. It's ride sharing, so we offer drivers who have empty seats to share them with passengers going the same way. Which means that not only they make savings, because it's really cost-splitting, so people who go on vacation and who go visit their family can share the cost, and it makes them savings. But it's also a very social way to travel, because people discuss with each other, they spend a few hours in the car together. It's really a social experience. So by combining the new technologies of search engines, databases, and connectivity, plus the trust network that we are building underneath, we're able to develop a new way of traveling. So in a few numbers, just to give you a sense of scale, today at BlaBlaCar there are 30 million members in 22 countries. So we've been able to scale a model that not only offers a new alternative for people to move around, but also brings trust at an unprecedented scale between people who've never met and who are able to trust the rights together, to share the rights together. So over the years, we've been listening to our members. That's how we built our product. And so we discovered the way trust is actually built. We developed a framework, which is really based on our experience of what the members asked to us on the platform, so that they were able to trust the other people before they go on a ride. So it's kind of a recipe, but if you look at our service, you will see that it resembles other sharing economy services, because it's actually the same tendencies that is behind. What you want to have when you log onto the service and when you prepare for riding with someone, you want to have some information which is first declared. So that will be your first name, last name, and then your age, and also your picture, your preferences, your short bio, things like that. This is declared information. You want to have access to information which is rated, meaning the members rate each other, so they leave ratings, and then you can say that because John got a good rating, he got 48 good ratings, then you can forge your trust on that. Then you want to have some information which is engaged. By engage, I mean the type of engagement that you would make saying, I'm booking online, I will be here tomorrow at 6 p.m. for the ride that you have scheduled. Then you want the information to be active, so you want to know if the person is actually really active on the network. So was she logged like yesterday? Was she logged 3 months ago? Does she or he answer to 98% of the messages or only 10? How many trips were published by this person? This kind of activity gives you more trust because you can feel that the person is really active, so it's really live. Then you have the information which is moderation information, so moderated. So what we do as a platform is to moderate all information that gets on the platform. So we moderate the content, and we also perform some checks. So we can perform checks on the mobile phone numbers, checks on the ID. We do also moderation of the content, both text and visual. And finally, there's some other information which is more social. So you can link your profile, for example, to other social networks, Facebook or LinkedIn. And so by showing your profile with a link to the other social networks, then it's a way for you to get to know the person a bit more and to know that this person is actually related to several social networks. So it brings quite a decent amount of trust, and we wanted to know how much trust there is in the end, so we wanted to find a way to measure it. So we've conducted a study with 18,000 respondents in 11 countries. And that's the report we're releasing today. So first of all, on the methods, what we did is ask people how much you trust each type of person on a scale from 0 to 5. So we asked how much do you trust a social network contact, how much you trust a neighbor, a colleague, friends, family. And we only counted the responses which were 4 or 5 out of 5 because those represent the high level of trust. On the level of from 0 to 5, 4 or 5 is really, really high. So we asked people how much you trust them, and this is the result. So a social network contact will be 16%, a neighbor will be 42%, a colleague will be 58%. As expected, friends and family are at the top. Friends are 92%, and family is 94%. And then, of course, we wanted to know how much you trust a BlaBlaCar member with a full profile, so with a dreams profile as we just described. This is where it gets very, very interesting. We are able to create a level of trust at 88% of people saying 4 or 5 on a scale of 5, which means almost as much as friends and family. Those are people who have never met. The only thing they have seen is the profiles on BlaBlaCar, and then they know lots of information about the person, and they're able to project themselves and to see that they will be able to engage with this person, even though they have never met that person, to a level which is super high. So what about the effect of brand? Because maybe they just trust this person because this person is registered on BlaBlaCar and they've been knowing BlaBlaCar for years, and so they may simply trust because of the brand BlaBlaCar. So we were curious and we asked ourselves, and we asked the respondents, how much they would trust someone with the same exact profile but on a generic platform without the brand BlaBlaCar. And so for us, this was a good finding as well to look at the brand effect and how much the brand affects the judgment of people when they have to trust in the interaction in the sharing economy. And actually, you can see it's 67%, which can be split, actually. If you say an average level of trust will be 50%, so again, it's 50% of people who say 4 or 5 on a scale of 0 to 5. And then you ask them their trust in someone with a full profile on a generic platform, and their trust in someone with a full profile on BlaBlaCar. Then you get a difference, which is actually 21%, which can be interpreted as the effect of the brand itself. This is also another finding. So brand is, of course, very important. It is a proxy for trust. But also what we can see is when we looked really behind the numbers as well, is that the trust itself in the brand is actually something that over time gets not as important as the trust in the tools that are developed. So people get to trust the tools, so the Dreams framework, as their main source for really engaging in interactions. So what about spreading trust? Of course, we're part of this entire big family, which is the sharing economy. So we wondered, what about if this trust is something that gets developed in the entire system or simply in BlaBlaCar? So we were curious in knowing what effect BlaBlaCar could have on them and on their sharing economies, sharing activities. So actually, 48% of the people told us that ride-sharing has made them more open to others, which is a very good sign for when you begin to ride-share, then you realize that it's very, very convenient and it's a very good experience, very good social experience. So it makes you more social. It makes you more inclined to actually go share and do some other activities with other people. So this is actually valid for most of the companies you've heard of in this new space, which is called now sharing economy. So it goes from like peer-to-peer car rental to ride sharing as we do, to home sharing, to co-working or crowdfunding. All these kind of activities are new and they're enabled by big platforms. So we asked our members how many of them did do some sharing economy activities before ride sharing. And so you see that for each activities, depending on how old those activities are, you can see that many people were already doing some ride-sharing activities. But then, of course, we asked, so do you do more since you've been registering? So do you actually engage in more sharing activity? And the result is that people do engage in more sharing activities once they've tried ride-sharing. So there is really a loop of interaction between all those activities. Once you start from one point, you can actually do a lot of others, up to 3 times more. So you can see for peer-to-peer house rentals or co-working, we get pretty good results. And actually, this creates a loop between all the sharing activities. So all the sharing economy platforms are benefiting from each other because the social behavior is actually changing. Then once trust is unleashed, like it is now through these platforms, we see that it can create lots of new interactions. So as Professor Arun Sundararajan puts it, digital trust is actually facilitating interactions in the real world. It's the melding of the digital and the real world. All this is based on this next trust infrastructure. And that's how we will be connected to each other in the future, also through those platforms to create new behaviors. I wanted to show you what it is in real life. So we took a map of all the ride sharing that exists in our network, and so we made it move on the map so you can see what's really happening. So keep in mind that any point on this graph is actually a car of people who've never met and who will just spend a few hours together making a ride together. Let's look at the video of what it does in real life. Welcome to the trust age.
Let's pretend that didn't happen. That was awesome. apparently it was in your PowerPoint. It took so long until it loaded. That's what we heard.
So that's a technical problem.
Yes.
Technical issue, as
usual. Technical
usual.
challenge.
Technical challenge.
We like to refer to things as challenges,
okay,
which we adapt to.
Okay.
My friend, very, very interesting subject you've tackled there. Do we have any Slido questions? If not, I mean, the topic is also called trust. I mean, how is that from a legal perspective? Are there any challenges you have to overcome?
Well, actually, it's just like interpersonal trust. I mean, when you build when you build trust within people, it's the same to build it now at a larger scale, and it allows new interactions. So it's something that we're getting used to, actually. That's something that's really happening right now. So everything will get sorted out on the way.
Cool. We do have one question bobbing up. Will BlaBlaCar stay free of cost for riders? Oh, that's a good one.
Well, it depends. Well, right now, what we have is that there is a commission which is applied, just like any other sharing economy model, by the way. So all the other sharing economy models are about the same. There is a small fee that is taken on the rides themselves to sustain the growth and make the service work, because it's a platform. So, like the way it's deployed in some countries now, it's because we're creating liquidity. And then once liquidity is created, there is a fee that gets applied to finance the entire structure. So the answer is, it depends. We will see how it goes. It depends on the countries, but mostly the company has to find its business model, and it is actually monetizing in most of the countries. So it cannot stay free forever.
Do you consider ride-hauling or long-distance bus services as competitors, or is the main competitor car ownership? But you've never heard that one.
For us, yeah, to us, the main competitor is car ownership, clearly. Because what's happening is that cars are not used to the scale they should be used today. And so most of the cars are empty, like 75% of the cars are running with only a driver on board. So you have 3 or 4 available seats in the cars, which is a total waste. So this is really what we're after.
And maybe this last question, how much did higher trust levels convert into higher usage of the platform?
That's a really good question. It is hard to measure. We couldn't do an A/B test to know how it would be without. So it's kind of really hard to answer the question. We see that it's engaging people more. We can't really put a number on it.
Okay, maybe a very short question still. Will you get into parcel delivery? Will you be delivering parcels and disrupting the coast?
That's diversification. You know, as we say, when you grow, you have 2 ways to go. Either you accelerate or you turn the wheel. If you do both at the same time, it can be dangerous. So what we do for now, we really accelerate on our activity, and we don't diversify in other activities, because that would be a totally other activity that we would have to develop to be able to deliver parcels.
Awesome. Thank you very much. We'll be moving on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, BlaBlaCar. Thank you very much, my friend.